getting consistent minutes, but let me kick this off properly. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cantina MX Football Podcast on 2/2/22. What a special day. For a couple of reasons, we've opened up this episode on Twitter Spaces. We've been having a lot of shit talking on the Liga MX subreddits, and people getting downvoted if not agreeing with the right opinion. So we said, hey, let's have an episode on Twitter Spaces. Hop on the mic, let's talk, because obviously there you can't have a civil conversation. So I want to welcome everybody. It's episode 324 of Cantina MX. Joel, of course, with me. How we doing?
Good, man.
But we had some pretty upsetting results in Liga MX. We're going to talk about that. We're having to make sure that Rodolfo Pizarro is in protective custody after he was addressed by... Was he like a part of the media, or was he just an upset fan? But man, he was trying to leave training, and they didn't let him leave. And he's like, hey, we give you a second chance here at Rayados, and you're over here dancing and not taking it serious. Like, you need to go out there and bust your balls every single game. And, Pobre Pizarro had to defend himself. I don't know, man.
They went after a few players, right? Mori and...
When Mori did, he didn't even... He's like, nope.
Well, I think they had broken into his house.
Really?
Not this season, maybe like in the previous one. So he's traumatized, man. He's...
Fayez Mori.
And then Gallardo, I think Gallardo actually rolled down his window to hear the criticism.
Yeah, and well-deserved. Puebla hosting Rayados on Friday with a man down, managed to beat them 1-0. And they're going after Aguirre. They're going after the players. They're demanding better football. And I think deservedly so. They're one of the highest paid teams in the league. They throw a lot of stupid money at a lot of players. And, I understand the fans demanding results, but I don't know if that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, sometimes Aguirre just arrived. Sometimes it takes longer. He's only been there, six months? So you basically, he's only been there half a season, but we see it as a full season because it's cut in half. So, I mean, you don't always hit, you don't always get off on the right foot. It could take a while sometimes to get the team going. So I think that's something we see a lot with Liga MX. We like patience, dude.
I mean,
and that's because like next season's already another campeonato. So I do see that. I do see why that fans have become that way, where they expect immediate results all the time.
Yeah, but I think if he was an inexperienced coach, he would have a longer leash. But come on, man, this is in his first rodeo, and he did help win the Champions League with them, and I think he's kind of been coasting off of that. And it's like, hey, we won it. We beat Tigres. So
hey, isn't Javi still struggling at Barca?
Who?
Xavi.
Oh. Yeah, it's gonna take more than Xavi for things to get turned around there.
People expecting tiki-taka, they would have been already. I don't know what the fans are saying over there, but in Mex they would have already been asking for his head.
Yeah. So we had that game to kick off match week 6 of Liga MX, but before that, a makeup match between Mazatlán and America, because I think of COVID, so they didn't play that match. So they remade that game on Wednesday, and Mazatlan ended up winning 2-1. And it was actually 2-0. America did get a goal like at the very last minute, and the rest did almost everything in their power to try and get the draw. But Mazatlan hold on to that victory. And then on Sunday, America lost again at home to Pachuca 3-1. And they are currently in the 16th position. 1 victory, 1 draw, 4 defeats, 4 points. Is this crisis mode right now?
Man, I wouldn't say it is, but I do have to eat crow because I said they were going to bounce back after the Santos win, and then they go in and get 2 more defeats.
Now, let me say this before I move forward, and I can't explain it.
12 teams qualified to Liguilla.
Now, let me say this before I move forward, and I can't explain.
You could win Liguilla, nobody's going to care what your regular season looked like. But again, it's it's that expectation of not just winning, but playing a certain way,
I'm not sure what's going on over there, but you had Solari, who was already being criticized for bouncing out of Liguilla prematurely with the quarterfinal eliminations. And, they just haven't been playing great football. And, yeah, they're doing bad. Pretty bad. If you're not beating Mazatlan, what are the chances for the rest of the season? They got a game against Pumas next, and I can see this continuing to downward spiral.
Yeah, and there's already rumors that they're going after the Larcarmon, the Puebla coach. That if Solari gets fired, they will go with an interim and then bring in the new sensation.
Yeah, he's been killing it. We've talked about him on the podcast, and we're already starting to see people ask him for the national team.
Well, because his record on the road, he plays to win. So it's just what the fans like. But I mean, he has yet to win some silverware. And if we've seen one thing with FMF is all the domestic coaches they brought in, they have all won. They won the league.
Yeah, we went over his numbers. He's got almost 50 matches for Puebla. He's been winning consistently. He's having deep playoff runs, but he's still pretty much inexperienced. He hasn't really won anything. And the fact that we're already like, yeah, he should coach La Selección is like, come on, guys. These are the same people calling out, oh, we should have Jimmy Lozano as the coach. I'm like, dog, these guys don't have any experience. These are the same people that want Marcelo Flores starting in the World Cup. And we're trying to have a conversation with these people, but they don't want to hop on. So I don't know. I just don't get it. I need to understand where these people are coming from and why they have these crazy ideas. It's like, you got to respect the process. You got to respect the people that have the experience. And you got to go out.
The media, a lot of times, they echo the media, what is said. And a lot of times, especially Mex media, it's more designed for clickbait. That's why you have people like Faitelson and Jose Ramon, and they've been at the forefront for so many years. And then even Martinoli taking a page and, exaggerating things. And that's a big reason for that. They make these claims and then a lot of fans still buy into it.
Yeah, they do. We have quite a few listeners. Again, this is an open discussion, so if you want to talk, just hit the request and we'll allow you to speak. Again, this is for you guys. We're trying to have a conversation here. We'll keep going, though, with Liga MX results for match week 6. Santos, again, another week without winning, and they're in last place with 2 points.
Yeah, I don't think Iraragorri cares, man. He's moved on. He's with Atlas now, dude.
He's counting his bucks over there. It's like was that
Santos is
what's that one meme where it's like the one of them's drowning?
drowning. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically it. I mean, Atlas pretty much has everything that even Grupo Pachuca would have hoped, and the León could have had, but I think they spent so much time in the back burner that their fan base sort of disappeared. But Atlas, which is which is what is incredible how the fans, despite so much taking so many L's for like what 70 something years, they stayed faithful and they're in Jalisco. They're in one of the top venues for football in Mexico. They got a fan base. It has everything. And when they won that title, it was like a big party. And those are the type of thing that you haven't seen with any of the other teams that like with Santos or Leon or Pachuca. And I do think that if if Atlas can be as successful as they have Santos, they will. I could see them becoming just even more popular than they are now. I should say than they are now.
Yeah. Yeah. The,
Yeah,
the only
and
I was gonna say the only redeeming thing that they can do this season is the Champions League. They did beat Montreal on Tuesday, and they do have a return leg. So I mean, they could potentially have a deep run in Champions League to kind of make up for the terrible league. And I think they're gonna try and put all their energy and efforts into that, and kind of just. But then again, we're only six weeks in, and 12 teams do make repechaje, so they go on a good tear, and who knows, they might be back into Liguilla.
no, and the other thing for Raragorri, which is Grupo Orlegui, he's talked about this openly. He wants a team in Europe. He wants to buy a team in Spain or England. And I do think if he could show what he's done with Atlas, I think that would open more doors, more so than with Santos. Even though just Santos alone should be very impressive, um, but I just think, and so I think you do need that vitrina, that Clubs World Cup to to put on to put on a good performance, and I do think they could manage that. I do because I mean, if that does shown something is that they know how to plan and prepare for things.
They do.
You should just buy Chivas, man. Just go for goats, man.
Man, if we were to have his kind of leadership, and then Puebla's coach, I might have hope that things could turn around. And that's like one of the big memes right now is like, Puebla, he's got the hot shot coach, and Chivas, America, and Rayados like, hey, yo, what's up, man? What's good? Speaking of Leon, they handled business against Chivas, and honestly, it was one of those matches where it was undeserving defeat for Chivas. They had a really good game. They had a really stupid first goal. It was just a mistake, a back pass, and the player wasn't focused, and he ended up giving it to the striker. Victor Davila puts it away for the 1-0, and Chivas, tie it up with Chicote Calderon, and it looked like Chivas were gonna get the draw, or maybe even get the victory, but at the very last minute, Leon, really one of the only like two the two attacks the entire game, and they both end up in the back of the net. They end up beating Chivas, and then today they secured their ticket to the next round of the Conca Champions. So Leon really turning things around, and they're at a really good place right now.
Yeah, well, they got a good coach and they've had a pretty good squad. My only criticism been like some of those players are pretty old, but I think there really isn't any Leon fans, so I'm, I'm just gonna say it. I do think the loss is gonna hurt Chivas, especially they got Puebla up next, and so another loss for Profe Leaño, and I do see you know they're gonna start lighting the torches and getting the pitchforks ready.
Yeah, well, it was kind of weird because it was an away game in Guanajuato, and Amauri was there, and the commentators were saying, it's never a good sign when your owner's at the match, that's on the road. So I don't know if they're just being kind of like cautious with Leaño right now, but I mean, to be fair, it was a tough loss. I don't feel like Chivas should have lost
It
that
don't matter,
match,
man.
but you get into this slump, you lose against Puebla, who are in first place. And I tweeted out something earlier this week, like, hey, like you can't create this like culture of losing because then you get used to it. And right now, Chivas just have this culture of losing. It's like it's okay. It's okay to lose. I feel like that's like the message that we're getting right now.
They sacked Buse for drawing. He got a draw against Pachuca.
Yeah.
It was supposedly they were saying if he loses, they were saying it for like 3 or 4 games in a row. It just
Yeah.
he wouldn't lose, and so they finally just gave him the boot. That's how they brought Leaño in. So that's the thing when you come in under those type of circumstances, and that's where I see Chivas. Whereas as you said, you create that culture. It's why I've been so against it. Uh, Cutting a coach with a few games left, or with the season about to end, because then it carries over to the next tournament, and it just looks bad. And they did it with Cardoso and Boy and all these other guys, and it's just that to me was why the firing was bad. They should have at least let Buset finish it out. And I think all that's it's biting them in the ass again. And now it looks like they're gonna have to do it all over again. I don't know if they would leave Leaño to finish the season.
It was actually a victory against Pachuca. We actually
Oh,
beat.
they actually.
Yeah, I remember
It wa-
because we beat Pachuca, and then we have the Clásico next, and that's when they decided to like fire him even before that match. So
oh man,
it was really weird. The
I thought
timing of it was very, very, very weird.
well,
Again, for all the listeners out there on Twitter Spaces, again, just request to speak, and we'll put you on. We want to hear your thoughts when we get to the talking point of tonight's podcast. We had Cruz Azul handle business against Toluca. Nacho Ambriz has to take the L on this one. And Santiago Jimenez scored a brace. You had Charlie Rodriguez as well scoring. So Cruz Azul in third place, right behind Puebla and Pachuca with 13 points. So it looks like the machine's going good for them. They're letting all the other gigantes the tension's not on them right now. It's on America, it's on Chivas, it's on Rayados. So and I think Cruz Azul have an opportunity here to just worry about their business, especially with all the crazy tension about Reynoso putting his resignation on the table and they not letting him quit.
yeah,
So
because they're well, that was speculation. We don't really know. I don't I haven't heard Reynoso say anything. So again, the media a lot of times clickbait. But yeah, the guy that brought Reynoso to the club had left and supposedly not in good terms, and so Cruz Azul fans they're a bit traumatized because of all the fuckery for all those years under Billy Alvarez and all that stuff. So they were fearing like a shakeup again, but he's still there and the team's doing good. So I think that's calming them down about, there's nothing to worry.
we had Tigres had a good turnaround against San Luis. I was watching this match and I was enjoying the score. 1-0 San Luis, own goal as well. And I got to give it to Gignac and also to their latest signing from Toronto FC, Jefferson. That guy came in the match and just changed the game and set up some goals for Cocolizo and Gignac. They ended up turning things around and winning the match. And Piojo looks like a genius.
I know they're missing him in America, and it's funny because when he was there was a lot of shit talking. And I saw fellow Americanista was talking about this never happened under Piojo, and I was trying to remind him. I remember when Piojo was there, you kept asking for Turco to return, but he seemed to have misunderstood. But yeah, they missed that guy now. He's telling you, Piojo's a good coach, and if he would be one of the candidates, would Tata be sacked? I think right now, not so much Aguirre. Aguirre just took himself out of the running, at least for now.
So you do you really think Piojo would be the number one candidate to replace Tata?
Yes, because that's what Liga MX, I mean FMF has always done, right? They sack a coach with the World Cup around the corner, and they go after whichever coach in Liga MX is doing the best. Not just doing the best, but has won a league title. So La Volpe, he was doing really good at Toluca, and he had that one league with Atlante. They did it with La
Chepo.
Puente, Chepo, so every coach from the league at least has that, and that's the only one right now. I mean, him. I don't think. There is like Tuca. We've talked about Tuca being a candidate, and
I don't think he would take it, would he?
Aguirre. Who knows, man? I mean, he's no longer at Tigres. That was his cushy job, dude. That was like the driving around in a Ferrari and toast of the town, dude. Never had to pay for a beer. Now he's in and he was in that big Monterrey. They have these their gated communities. They have like, dude, they got some. It's crazy, dude. I don't know. You guys could Google it. There's some crazy towns in Monterrey. It looks like you're in the U.S.
I believe it.
Super upscale, man. And but he's at Juarez right now, dude. I don't Northtown, man.
Chihuahua,
Probably.
Juarez. Yeah, they did okay. We obviously Chivas, beat them. But then they ended up holding it down against Santos on Friday. And I see him. He still's got that anger in him, man. Like he's out there totally, not staying in his little like box that's outlined for him. He's damn near on the pitch wanting to play, and he still has that passion for the game.
So he probably can't run anymore and do that kick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does merit discussion. Who would be the obvious candidates?
Right now it's Piojo, dude.
Piojo's done it before. He helped us get into the World Cup. Repechaje against New Zealand, and people said, "Hey, look, like everyone says that he had a great World Cup, but it wasn't the best Brazil, and but they're kind of trying.
It was still Brazil at home.
I'm like everyone's trying to like downplay his accomplishments. They said, oh, the Gold Cup that he won, like it was a gifted, because the, remember it was like the penalty call where even the commentators were telling Guardado to like miss on purpose because it wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, but that was the from the angle of the U.S. So when you're seeing games, is usually if you're seeing from the U.S. feed, the cameras are pointed one way.
That's
so
correct.
That the ad boards, you can see the ads that are meant for the U.S. audience. And then if the Mex, they're pointed the other direction, and then they're seeing the different ads. So from the when I saw the replay, and you could it's on YouTube. from like from the Mex. If you're watching it and you could clearly see that it was penalty.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. You won't know that unless you go to the game. The the boards, the advertising boards, they're completely different on each side. So yeah, the North American broadcast hits it from one angle, and then the Mexican broadcast from the other side hits it from another angle. So I always thought that was pretty interesting. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I would always, when I went into the games, I would always like see what brands were advertising.
So after this week, again, Puebla in first place, 14 points. Pachuca in second place with that victory against America with 13. Cruz Azul with 13. Tigres with 13. Atlas still relevant with 12 points. They tied against Pumas, who are right behind them in sixth. Ambrices Tolucas in seventh. Leon in eighth. Chivas in ninth. Juarez in 10th. Eva Longoria's Necaxa is in 11th position, and Gallos in 12th. So these are the 12 teams that would be competing for silverware if the season was to end today. A lot can change though between now and match week 17. So I wouldn't start, freaking out just now. I could easily see Rayados and America turn things around before the end of the season. They have the squad to do it.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. And 12 teams, it makes it so that these slumps aren't as bad as they seem. I remember when Chivas had this slump, and with like 3 games left in the season, they could still qualify. so, so that could still happen, man. That's the one thing of Liga MX that I've never really.
Well, even funnier is I remember when Chelis was coaching Puebla and they were literally like on the verge of getting relegated, and they were able to, save their season and avoid relegation. At the same time, they were also eligible to like make repechaje. So it was crazy. It was one of those things like, what? The team that was about to get relegated also is qualifying to Liguilla? How does that work? Like, it was just crazy. It's one of those things. That's Liga MX. One thing that before I forget with the Leon Chivas game, one thing that I thought was very interesting is Macias finally did get his opportunity to play in that match, and every time he touched the ball, the fans were booing him.
They didn't want him to come back. No, I mean he was at Leon, so I think that's a big part of it.
He arguably had his best season at Leon, scored a bunch of goals for them, and you're gonna boo him?
Yeah, but it's part to mess. Try to get in your head, you know. Which it does happen, dude. I saw a video the other day of Oswaldo Sanchez, and he was at Santos, and they were playing against Pumas. They were at CU, and the fans were like talking shit to him the whole day, and they were saying they were just chanting and yelling how he was gonna miss the World Cup.
Oh yeah.
And he got caught on camera while it's like going down some stairs
To the locker room.
to the locker room,
Mm-hmm.
and he's sitting there crying, dude. So that stuff does. Hey, words hurt. Words hurt.
Well, that's the story of my life. No respect. No respect.
No respect.
They hurt more than downvotes. But yeah, dude, and so you can't get to a player. You can't get in a player's head. So I do feel that's part of it. Just to mess with him. Leon fans seem pretty fair weather. I remember when Landon went to play there. Dude was liked, man. I was expecting the opposite, and the fans liked him. So I do think if like he was just to be walking around the city, I think they would treat him good. But for the sake of the match, it's fair game, dude.
Yeah, I remember like hearing, or it was on Twitter. It was like a thread. It was like a story about Osvaldo and Ochoa because they were both like, fighting for that spot in the World Cup, and I think Ochoa was made that mistake against Korea, and Osvaldo was at the game.
Yeah, I think it was at Santos.
It was
The
at
game was
Torreon.
at their stadium. Yeah.
Yeah, he made that mistake. He concedes the goal, and then I guess just the way the camera angle hit it, it looked like he was making fun of Ochoa, and then from right then, that was like
He was like he gestured like he was gonna go on the field.
yeah, he's like, bruh, sub me
And
in right now, taking off his jacket and everything.
he said that the people he was with, that they were telling him, "Don't you feel like going in?"
Yeah, they were like egging him on. Yeah.
And so he said it was mostly reacting to them. He didn't know he was on camera, which I agree. I don't think he knew the camera was pointing at him.
Yeah, he had no idea. Yeah, and then, Ochoa kind of like passive aggressively mentioned something in some interview, and they've kind of had like that feud ever since. But I didn't really know it was like that. I didn't know they had animosity towards each other.
I think it started when Hugo was coach, and I think that Osvaldo pulled strings to take over But I mean, that's topic for another day, Jaime. We got some a pretty good big topic that we haven't touched yet.
Yeah, we're at the 30-minute mark. It's time to talk about the topic of the night. We had something that I saw on Twitter, talking about Diego Lainez and how out of the 2,000 minutes available, he's only played 96 of them, 4% of the minutes available.
That's one game. That's like one full game, and then
yeah. And I don't know if this goes back to just this season, but he had the opportunity to leave on a loan, and he decided no. He decided to stay at Betis, and he said that Pellegrini convinced him to stay. I don't know how much of that is true, but I mean, if we were to assess his transfer originally in January of 2019, I mean, would you say that this has been not a failure, but like if you had hindsight and you were to do it again, like would you have stayed at America? Would you have taken the job or the opportunity at Ajax? It seems like Betis was kind of like a flop.
Yeah, it has been, and I was for him going to Betis because their the vice president went to Mexico, and they went to talk to him, and it looked like they were very serious about him being a big part of their club. But it ended up not working out, and I'm not following Betis, so I don't know. A lot of times you have that changes in management, or even at the upper level, and someone else comes in and it's a whole new project, similar to when Chivas had the Croit project, and then they, when they came, they scrapped whatever the other people were doing. I don't know if that happened, but whatever happened there, they seem to just not have faith in him, and because at his age, he should already be a starter. So it's not the whole he's too young excuse.
Yeah. I want to hear from our listeners. Again, invite you guys to speak, just request. This is kind of like the hot topic of the night. I think, it's not a failure. He has grown as a player. They say, oh, even if he's not playing, just training with these guys and having because they don't do weight training in Mexico. He's like, yeah, he's already one of our best wingers for the national team. So what does that have to say about, the rest? And I'm like, I get it, bro, but it's like at the end of the day, like you can actually out train yourself. Like I remember like in UFC or in boxing, like if you spend too much in the training camp, like by the time you get to your fight, you're already like gassed. And there is a thing of overtraining. And I feel like at the end of the day, dude, you need
But training's never gonna beat getting actual playing time.
yeah.
It's just not. You need those minutes. We've talked about the 10,000 hour rule. So they say anybody that's like a professional or an expert at something, they've put in that many hours, and there's truth to that. And it's the same applies football. The more actual playing time you have, the better you're gonna get. And you know, just going over there and not being able to play, I think that's that whole you get to train and all that. That's just reaching, man. I mean, Chivas had that goalie training with what was it, Iker Casillas? Who was he training at Portugal?
Porto.
Yeah, but who was that? Was it Iker or was it?
Oh, who's the goalie or what? Or who?
Yeah, the Chivas guy. Was
Oh,
it
Godinho.
Godinho? Yeah, what was their goalie? I forget, dude.
Yeah, it was Casillas.
Cause there you go, and I mean, is he any? Did he learn all those mistakes he makes? What did he learn? Seriously, what did he learn,
he
man? Is he
learned
just paying his
to
bags?
he learned how to
He
not
learned
trap
his
the ball.
Starbucks order? There's a lot of examples like that. We've had players gone to Real Madrid, young players, to Barcelona, and what, they were there for a while and then they came back, and no one really talks about them. But did they come back being better? Not really, you know. So that whole thing is playing time is always going to be the main thing you want as a player. So that the whole you could be at the Galactico team and train with those guys, and you're not gonna get good, if you don't play the actual games.
We have El Tecatote. Maybe he has some light on this.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't say it's a failure. I think a failure would have been if he would have stayed at America. The fact that he took the risk. Personally, if he was like my son, I would recommend the Netherlands instead of Spain, just because the Netherlands is known for being a league that develops young talent. Look at Edson, like the player that arrived at the Netherlands, and the player that he is now is like day and night. Like he's like improved so much. He went from being the worst player in his position in 2018 World Cup to be considered one of the best in the Dutch league. Now, however, I do feel like Betty fans are probably very disappointed because they did spend a good amount on Linus. I think they spent what, anywhere between
I think it was like 15, maybe.
like 15
that,
million.
that's a lot for them.
Yeah, that's a lot for them. And when they could have considered, they could have probably gone to Argentina or Brazil and gotten somebody for maybe 6 or 7, and could have given maybe more results. But so on the Mexicans, it kind of sets that bad tone. And I think his biggest issue is the same issue that Orbelín's having right now. When he first started playing, I don't remember who the coach was, but he was like, he's just not
Was it
very good on the field as far as like tactics, positioning. It's a lot we need to improve on. And that's what Orbelín's coach just like dissed them on over the weekend, which I found surprising. You rarely does a new player come and join the team. You give them playing time, and then you just like burn them after their debut in the press conference.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah.
true.
but yeah, like Ness, I feel he's had plenty of time to adapt to being tactically aware, his positioning on the field. He's an entertaining player for sure. So yeah, I don't know what the disconnect is there. I feel he should have gone to the Dutch league, but why he stayed at Betis, because the coach talked to him and said want to be a part of him. I think it's just time to move. Sometimes everybody just needs a breath of fresh air, just to like remotivate you feel like
Do,
you have a fresh start.
do you guys know which team he was going on loan?
Mm,
I don't, but I feel
no.
like any team in La Liga would have been beneficial. I mean, if
Yeah,
Madrid sent Kubo to a lower like team like Mallorca, why couldn't Lainez play at Granada or something like that, you know, or
yeah.
even Leganes?
I would say as long as it was in Spain, because I think he's about to get his EU passport.
Who, Linus?
Yeah, because you have to stay in a certain country X
I
amount of
think in
years.
Spain he should be eligible by now, and that might be the only silver lining of this whole, this move over there. He'll have a Euro passport. He'll probably stay in Europe and play for another team. It reminds me of like Danielson. He joined Betis back in the
He was
90s, and he was he was the world's most expensive transfer at the time. And Betis were never really known as developing talent, and he ended up having like a decent career.
well. This
But
is this is the thing, and you said the key word here, and I wanted to bring it up because Tecatote talked about you know Edson and the development. When players go to Europe, they shouldn't be going they have to go to contribute. So if that's the mentality, we're already seeing the league and even the players not being good enough. And I've argued this before, and we've seen it with Chicharo, right? He goes to Man U. He didn't go to learn, He went first season, he scored 20 goals across the board at the different tournaments. He didn't have to go spend 3 seasons in the Dutch league or Portugal. He went straight to the Premiership, and he was killing it. And I think a lot of these players they're that good, but it just depends who the coach is, and what system they play, and if you're good for that system. So I do feel that we underestimate the Mexican talent, and we make them seem like worse than they are. Jimenez, another good example, had he not had his agent, he would have left Athletic a failure. He probably would have been at Tigres, but he had the really good agent that sent him to Portugal, and then there was an opening, and he ended up going to
Wolves.
to Wolves. But man, are we really gonna say they were teaching him how to kick the ball and do all that? This dude was already scoring off chilenas and doing a lot of that stuff. So I do think for me is you're going, to contribute because of the team. The coach feels that you're going to be an asset to the team, and we've seen it with other players that have gone. Pavel Pardo and Ricardo Osorio,
Massa.
right? Go to Stuttgart and they won the Bundesliga. So I just that narrative, I just never been for it unless you leave at like sort of like Vela age, which is like 16, 17. And then that's more of like, all right, you're going to develop. But if you're already like 20, 21,
Yeah.
you're going in there to contribute. They took Neymar. They didn't take Neymar to develop him. They took him because he was already one of the top players, and so that he could improve the team. And I do feel we have to have that type of mentality when it comes to our players, and not have like these hopes that he's gonna get better because he's there, and then that's gonna help the national
He's
team.
weight training, guys, and he's in practice every day. And Betis are basically like the second best team in Spain right now because they're that's where their rank is in La Liga right now. So technically, he's like really good. This is what people are saying, bro. I'm like, no, he needs to be starting every single game. He would have already had over 100 caps had he gone to Stade at America, or if he would have went to Ajax. I feel like he would have been killing it right now. But his career's kind of been stagnant since he left. It really hasn't taken off. And when you're only getting 4% of all the available minutes in a league, it's just like, yo, you got to do something. You got to make a move. And the fact that he can still, despite the lack of playing time, he can still get called up by the national team. and even potentially start, that is a big problem. Why are we not having like 5 players ahead of him? I don't understand.
Because they're not there.
They're there,
It-
bro. It's just we don't
they're
have
not, dude.
we have too many foreigners, but the to tell me that in in the Mexican country that we don't have players of that caliber
Same happened with Giovanni,
is just crazy, dude.
right? When Gio was in Europe, he never played as much, and he kept getting called up.
Like, there's players in Mexico that, in my opinion, should be starting over Linus. You know, Alexis Vegas. He's one of the best players we have right now, in form. And that's not just like, oh, in Mexico, but like I'm talking about. I mean, unfortunately, Chucky's out. Tecate, he's kind of still getting his settled in over there at Sevilla, but I mean, I think for the game against USA, Vega should be starting if he continues this form.
Yeah, but I mean, Lainez defense. I mean, let's remember he's barely about to turn 22. He's been at Lainez since, I mean, at Betis since what, 2019.
Yep.
So I think I wouldn't say, you know, like, oh, it's over. I mean, he's still a 21-year-old kid.
No, I'm not saying
I'm
it's
sure all
over.
the experiences that come with being 18, 19 in a new country, all that new coaching system, and touching on earlier point, you know, that players got to show up and contribute. I mean, that also depends on the player. Not every player that we export is a stud. Like, we might think he is because he's going to Europe, but you know, there's different levels, different calibers. For example, Chicharito, yeah, he showed up at Manchester United and was killing it, but people can hate, they can like Chicharito, but at the end of the day, he's a Mexico all-time leading scorer. He played at United, he played in Madrid. He's a caliber above other strikers. Maybe his um, wide opening misses might make people doubt that. But no, as far as his instinct in the penalty box, there's very few strikers in Mexico that had that when he was in his prime. With Linus, I don't see no problem him showing up at 18, 17-year-olds and still developing. Because let's look at Liga MX. When do the majority of players debut? Between 19 to 21, and they want to take them slow because they're not ready. If it was for Tuca Ferretti, young players will become professional at 26, 27. So, I mean, if we're going to talk about sending them to Europe to contribute and being ready, not saying them Europe develop, well, then in Liga MX, they should start playing at 16, 17, 18 at the latest.
I agree.
It's true, and that's what we see in South America. If you look at, Argentina, Brazil, the players that end up leaving, at least the top ones that end up doing good, because see, that's also what the Mexican fan wants. You know, they want to have these players playing in the top teams, being starters, playing Champions League, and that's the only way you're going to get those players if they have that talent that when they go over there, they're already contributing, because that's the competition that they're facing from South America. So it's you have to be there, not just hope that in 2-3 years you will develop into that. But yeah, I do think that's in Mex. That's the big problem. They because of the short season, they don't give them as much playing time as they should be getting. They end up just like Tuca, as you said, he had a bunch of players where he wasn't. He just left them on the bench.
Who's the player with the big ears? I forgot his name. Spericueta. What happened to that, man? That is
just disappeared.
was
Chingomez was
probably
the other guy.
I wonder if he's in New Zealand with Davila and
some of them are in
Gael
Guatemala.
Sandoval. But man, it's just like I think the whole oh my god, this team approached me to go to Europe. I'm thinking about Chivas and Chelsea and how they handled Davila. Like that dude was not ready to go to Europe. And Chivas should have done their research and realized like Chelsea's not where you go and send a player. They have so many players out on loan that never end up even playing for Chelsea. So it's like I wish they could have just taken their time and said, "Hey, you know what? This dude's barely got like 5 games as a professional. Let's slow down here. Under 20 World Cup performance does not translate to first team professional minutes."
And the sad part, Davila had a really good season. They sent him like in some Spanish. I forgot which one, like second
Cordoba, I
division
think.
or second or third, but he helps them win promotion.
Yeah.
And then they sent him to another club. I was like, damn, that sucks. They
Yeah, hopefully that
bounced him
US
around.
PSV partnership makes something happen as far as like sending players over there.
There's been others. I've never seen anything happen. I remember that when Chicharo they announced a similar partnership with Man U. The only thing we got was a friendly game, the inauguration for the OmniLife, and supposedly like there was like, oh, they're gonna send coaches, or Achille was gonna send coaches to England to train over there and whatnot. And I don't know what happened. We didn't get any memos on what's going on with that.
Yeah, I have no idea. But the fact that we have like bench warmers in Europe and everyone's saying, yeah, that's fine. They're better off in Europe than they are playing every week in and week out in Liga MX. I don't know. I don't know if like that's true.
It's not because to the fan it might be because if you think about it, yeah, do I want to play with all respect like Mazatlan or Juarez, or do I want to train with some of the top guys in Europe and at least have a chance, the possibility of playing against top teams? Like I get that point of view, but what people also got to realize that the amount of Mexican players in Europe, the sample size is small. So when a team wants to pick up a Mexican player and they look across the board and see that out of the 20 that are in Europe, I don't know the amount, let's just say 20, that 15, 16 are not really seeing much playing time, and the ones that are seeing smaller teams, and you have like cases like Chicharito, who did well, Guardado, who's pretty much done well at every team he's been, but besides that, Jimenez, but besides that, you don't got much going on. So you're like, why am I gonna take this 10 million, $15 million expense on the guy who, if we follow recent results, he's probably not gonna pan out? I'd rather just go to Argentina, South America, and spend 5, 7, 10 million on a younger kid. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's starting. And now look at the U.S. Like look at the MLS is selling guys for what, like 800,000. So and you got the opposite. Then what Pepe was what, like 20 million. But some of them they're letting him go basically for nothing. So I mean, I think that's what the Federation and Liga MX got to come together and realize, like, do what Brazil did. Brazil sold everybody for cheap. Brazil just wanted to overflow the market with Brazilian players, just so they could become known, get that
No,
exposure.
Brazil's broke, man. It was just they're not paying. That's a big part of it. A lot of there's a few clubs where they'll pay good, and then they just got like a lot of clubs where they're getting peanuts. But I I would like to at least talk about why we have that idea of going to Europe is better, because I feel it's something that we kind of started hearing about maybe 20 years ago. Because when I started watching Mexican football, it was all about if Mexico could compete in South America, then they're going to be, World Cup contenders. And then that slowly faded away, which even after having competed, it kind of faded away and it went into, oh, well, we have X amount of players in Europe, um, then the national team will be better. And there's a lot of clubs with a lot of players in Europe. Not clubs, I mean national teams. and they're not exactly world class. You see teams like Ghana, Nigeria, even Chile, they're not exactly competing for the World Cup. So at what point, even if Mexico had those players, what makes us think that they're automatically going to be at that level like the World Cup winners? So I would say the one thing that happened that like shifted everything, it was the Bosman ruling, which meant more foreigners. It opened up foreign spaces in Europe. So then that was around what, 94, 95. So then after that, they started bringing in more South Americans and more players from Africa. And so those leagues became way stronger. And that was like, Champions League, all of that started like blowing up. But the one thing we saw like as cost for that since 98 World Cup until the last one, it's all been European champions, except for Brazil in 02, the only one. So we went from like, South America winning half of the time, Europe winning the other half, to pretty much it's all Europeans now, for the most part, that are winning. And I think that's part of it, because these leagues became weaker. Like, how much better would the Brazilian league be if they had all those stars that are spread all over Europe? I mean, man, that league would be something else. Same with Argentina. So, and a lot of these guys don't exactly leave because, Euro and it's the money. A lot of these guys, if they had a choice, would stay at home.
They just can't get those kind of wages, and that's why
Yeah.
Liga MX has a unique problem, because unlike the South American teams, they don't have to necessarily sell and export players in order to make a profit. They can do that within their own market, and
Yeah.
you have teams that are willing to spend 17, 18 million dollars on a Mexican when no other league in the world would even think about doing that. But within Liga MX, there are teams that are willing to do that and willing to spend that and willing to pay that much for a player. So it's very hard for how do you convince a business owner that, if you sell to Europe for a cheaper price, in the long run, it's for the better good of our country, because we will be that much closer to a World Cup because these guys are better off playing in Europe than they are here. It's like, what? Are you crazy? This is a business. We're here for profit. And again, this is why we are in the position that we're in.
But also, like if we look at the countries that have won the World Cup, so like 2018 France, 2014 Germany, 2010 Spain, 2006 Italy, they all have really strong domestic leagues. And a lot of these teams, the base of their squad was at home. Spain majority, Barcelona, Real Madrid have players in the other. They didn't have to be in EPL or any other league. Same with Germany, majority Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
So I mean,
France too.
I think
most of their players are domestic.
Yeah, and I think that's been key. If you have a strong league, your national team will be better off for it than just, because we have majority. Uruguay has a majority. They haven't won a World Cup since 1950, and they've had some really good players, and they can't seem to win. They haven't really challenged for it.
I think
So I don't.
South Africa was the closest, right? Third place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to 1950, and you see their league, it's not very strong because all their top talent leaves, and it's like, pay's not very good. So their other players end up going to any other country, not just Europe. So you have these leagues that became weak. But if we look even like club soccer, like Clubs World Cup, before it was Club World Cup, like when they played international games, dude, South American teams would school the Europeans. Now it's like the other way around. They have a tough time beating them, but they're playing with, you know, teams that are way weaker than they used to be.
Yeah. We have another speaker. Joshua, if you feel free to chime in, just let us know. Kind of. Yeah, we can kind of hear you. It's kind of low. No, it's pretty low. But
Well, I mean, going to that point of like, as far as the national teams, you know, exporting players to Europe, no one's saying it's going to win you a World Cup. All it's going to do is just increase your chances. And then, like you were mentioning, the Liga MX does have that unique problem because, you know, those teams in like South America that are selling players at a lower price, you know, like that 7 to 10 million range, they're still making a profit because they're not paying them much. The problem with Liga MX is that the players can't have both things. Like when players say, like Guardado comes out and says, "Oh, well, you know what? It's because they're asking too much for Liga MX players. Like, we're not willing to buy them." Yeah, but how much are Liga MX players making? $1 million a month? Like, you know,
Yeah.
so how are you gonna make? How are you gonna tell your boss to pay you $1 million a month, but you're also gonna tell your boss to sell you cheap so you can play in Europe? You
Yeah.
can't both.
That's a really good point, and one a lot of fans don't get. They expect the clubs to just take an L, and it's like, you know, it's not that easy for these clubs to lose money. We've seen in Liga MX how many clubs have gone under and just disappeared because they lacked funds. Lobos Buap, Chiapas, Veracruz. There's way more Indios.
Morelia.
So many teams that just crashed and burned, and you want, you know, fans still want them to like, hey, give them away just because I want the selección to look better. Not, you know, at the expense of a club, and clubs are already, for the most part, they're already losing a lot of money. So you're right. I saw with Pizarro when he took that big, when he made that big move. That's where if he wanted to go to Europe, he should have just let his contract end and left, similar to Orbelin. But he went for the big check, and I was like, they're not gonna buy him at 17 million.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys like a short personal story. Like I'm currently on the job hunt, and you know I had a call like the first interview, and you know we were talking about the compensation, and I was like taken aback. I'm like, this is way below market. Like I'm not gonna take this job, even if it's like a promising company. You know, they're the startup and they have a great product. Like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna take a pay cut just because for the greater good or because it's more challenging. Like no, like I should be making actually more, you know? Like why would I take less? Or at minimum take like a lateral move, but never take less. So like and that's just like a personal thing, right? It's like you don't a player's career is very, very short. And if you're making a lot of money, it's like, hey, like you got to be able to match that, and if anything, get more. Because I mean, that's the reason why we're having this conversation, right? Is because you value me. You know that I'll be a good asset to your team. It's like, all right, you know, and it's not their fault that you know in Mexico you're getting paid well. Like that's not a player's fault. They should take advantage of that while they can. And I understand that you do have to sometimes sacrifice and take a step back to move forward, but a lot of players just don't have that mindset. They don't have that mentality, and I mean, you have players that are in a unique situation like Macias, who come from wealth, who come from money, and they don't care. They can go a whole half year without getting any wages because they're good. They got the money in the bank. But for the Mexican player that you know is coming from nothing, I mean, that's kind of hard to convince them to do that. Let's see if Joshua fixed his mic. It's like super low. We can barely hear you.
fix it.
Yeah, sorry, man. We can't hear you. We got another request. Hang on. We got Mr. Yums hopping on.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you.
All right. So, what's your guys' beef with the whole European stuff? Like, what do you guys think? What do you guys believe that European players are not doing right correctly?
Well, it's not a beef with Europe. And again, I encourage like Mexican players to go out there and definitely because that's where the best play right now. I mean, as of right now, the best, most competitive football in the world is in Europe. But we also shouldn't be salvating or like bending backwards for the clubs when they're inquiring about our players to go abroad. You know, case in point, Linus. Look at Macias as well. Like these guys were like salivating at the first opportunity to go out there instead of sort of solidifying their career within Liga MX. They still had plenty of time to have another season or two in Liga MX. And when you do make that jump, make sure that it's a well thought out project. Um, with Macias, unfortunately, like the coach got fired and then he just rotted on the bench. Same thing with Linus, the Betis coach that originally signed him. I think they got rid of him. So it's like, I mean, that's football, and you got to take a gamble to go out there. But I'm not entirely convinced that the Mexican national team has benefited from our players being based out of Europe because till this day we have continued to stay eliminated in the round of 16. Right now, we're currently struggling in qualifying, and it's because our starters are bench warmers in Europe.
Yeah, for me, it's not so much a beef with them going abroad. It's more with the fans' mindset of thinking that it's a given. You go abroad and it's a given that you improve or you become that much better, or that because you went, you became that much better. To me, it's always been as long as you get that PT, and I'm going off of examples that we've seen. Cuauhtemoc Blanco, to me, he didn't have to go to Europe. He was GOAT no matter who he played against. He would school.
I mean,
he did it. And then we've seen other players that Pulido went. He was, 2 years in Greece, played 14 games. Did he really get better? You know, Coutinho at Porto, training under Iker with dude still fumbling. He's, it looks like he was playing at Tapatio. He doesn't, might as well have been at Chivas USA. So just going abroad, it's not. If you're good, you're good, and you'll make your way into a top team, and if you're not, then you're just better off being at a team where you're gonna get more playing time than just you're just there riding the pine and because you weight training.
mm, don't you think we have don't you think players like Dam, Pizarro, Roma would have proved if they wouldn't gone to Europe earlier?
No,
Why
no,
don't you think that?
because it's if you're good, you're good. That's the saying. What's
No,
the saying
no, no.
in Mexican? El gallo donde quiera canta. El que es gallo donde quiera canta. And that's kind of the thing. If you're good, I mean, you could get uh, you could improve to an extent, but not. I wouldn't say like night and day, where it's like you're like a world class player. Some of these guys like Rafa Marquez, dude was balling at 17. He already looked really good. You know, he didn't become that good just because he went to Monaco and Barcelona. He was already um, at that level. I mean, he was called up to the senior national team at 17. He was already starting for Atlas, and one of the best players in the league at that age. And you see it with a lot of the top players. at that very young age, they're already like making their way into the first teams.
All right. So you don't think Chicharito improve going to Europe? Because he was, if you saw him playing in Chivas when he debuted, and let's say when he was playing in Bayern Munich, don't you think they're two different players? I mean, not
Uh,
Bayern Munich,
Leverkusen.
Leverkusen.
You
Yeah.
know, you know what's funny about that is I actually thought he got worse. As far as because Chicharito's always been criticized as, oh, he's just a poacher, he just does tap-ins. But if you look at his short stint at Chivas, this dude was playing on the wings. He was shaking people. He was shooting from distance. And when he got to Manchester United, you know, Sir Alex Ferguson said, "Hey, no, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna score all your goals within the box." And you know, he ended up scoring a lot of goals. And it wasn't until later on in his career when he did end up joining Leverkusen, you started to see him take a little bit more dribbling, a little bit more shooting from outside the box.
Yeah.
But these are
Well,
things.
he scored really quick,
Yeah,
because I do remember something that happened when he was at Madrid, and he scored. I think he scored from a distance, and
His
it was
first
like, oh,
goal.
because he's training with them. It's like, no, if you look at some of his goals at US, he had already scored goals like that. But it's like Jaime said, the coach changed his playing style, and him being at in Germany, I think he should have stayed there, because that he was under a coach that wanted him and a system that worked for him. I think once he ended up going to all these clubs, I don't think he just automatically sucked. It's just they were, he ended up with a coach that never wanted him. He ends up with him twice. Was it Moyes?
Moyes. Yeah, unfortunately.
That's fucked up, dude.
He's like, didn't I already get rid of you once? What are you doing back? But I mean, like, basically, what we're trying to say is like, if you're good anywhere. Like, Chicharito was gonna score 100 goals no matter if he played for Chivas or he stayed abroad. Like, this dude is he was born for this. You know what I mean? And you have players that like, they're just like that. You look at who was the player that like could have gone to Europe but said he just wanted to play for Monterrey his entire career. Gabriel Arellano. You know,
Oh yeah.
he was being looked at, and he turned down offers to go to Europe, and he's like, no, it's like, Rayados is my team, and Ramon Ramirez too was a player that could have gone to Europe and stuff, but these guys still came through for the national team and had great careers, and there's no shame in like having a great career in Mexico. I feel like at the end of the day, when you put on the green jersey, like you suit up and you perform for the team. And it doesn't really matter if you're in Europe or not, but this whole mentality and mindset that, oh, sabes la diferencia, yo estoy en Europa y tú no, like that kind of mentality is just, it's terrible. It's like you're not even giving respect to the country where you're from and that you're playing in. This whole mindset that, oh, everything else is like Mexico's inferior and everything else is better. Like, I think it's a bad way of thinking about things.
And
I keep hearing this bench warmer thing from you guys. Who's the bench warmer? Yeah, the only person I know that are bench warmers is Linus and Hermoso, right? Because I mean Hermoso is a rotational player, so it's like who is it that you guys are like referring to? Just Linus?
I mean, right now for like the starting lineup for Mexico, like Tata even said, like, HH is like our best player, and this dude's getting scrap minutes at Atletico. Like, this dude's like third or fourth on the depth chart behind like Coque and Saul, and it's just like
Yeah, but
it's hard to break
my
into.
beef with Tata with those quotes is he's using Achacha wrong. He's making a three diamond with Guardado and Ensign, which is whole disaster with that three because they're all slow as fuck. So he kind of contradicts himself too.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, we have players in Mexico that
Don't you think?
should be starting over him because he's benching. He's not in form. And that's the thing. It's like Linus also Like honestly, like if we were to be like really critical, like these guys shouldn't even be being called up for the national team. Again, 4% of the minutes out there. Like, come on,
Who
man.
do you think? Who do you think can like?
We talked about it
Like,
earlier. So like
'cause I heard you guys saying that Linus sucks for the selección. He doesn't though.
he does. No, I didn't
I
say
heard
he
that. He
sucks.
doesn't
I'm just
start for
saying
the
that
selección.
we have
Con el
players in Mexico that should be
No, he
getting
starts.
the opportunity before him. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like Linus, when
Who do
he's
you
on,
think
he's
is better
on.
than Linus at the right one?
But I'm not convinced that the
But
move to
it's a,
I'm not convinced that the move to Betis, the timing of it, I don't think it was right. I think he would have even been better for the national team and career wise right now. Like if we were to look back at like the 3 years, right, that he's pretty much been stagnant. Like imagine if he would have had consistent playing time for 3 years straight. By the time he's now going into this World Cup, this dude would have been an undisputed starter. But right now he's behind the pecking order of Linus and Tegatito and Lozano.
well, I mean those are two developed players already though. So it's like it wouldn't have mattered either way. I don't think it would have mattered, in my opinion, if he would have stayed or not. I think those two would have been ahead of him either way. But who do you say Achacha shouldn't be starting, but over who should be starting over Achacha and Liga MX? Who do you think
Right
should replace
now,
him?
in the midfield, I mean Charlie Rodriguez, he's already starting.
He's already starting. And has he been good or not?
And we have obviously Romo until he kind of fell into a slump right now at Rayados. I don't think that was the right move.
I
But
don't know. He's been stagnant for a while as well.
I mean, he got a chip with Cruz Azul. I think he's done well.
I don't think he's better than Achacha. I don't think he even offers more than Achacha does.
No, Acha is very talented. I mean, without a doubt. But at the end of I've never once felt when Acha starts like, oh shit, we're fucked. No, he's one of our most talented guys on the field in midfield. I think he's more talented than Edson, Charlie by far. Now the thing is, whether you blame it on the coach because he's not putting two midfielders that can give him the support he needs, or you blame it on Ache not getting enough playing time. The thing is, he's not rendiendo at the level that a national player should be. So whoever's at fault for that, that's a whole different discussion. But right now, if Mexico can't take advantage of that talent and he's also playing slow, well, you might as well go in with some youth that hasn't experienced a World Cup at that level, like Charlie Rodriguez, Edson Alvarez, and whoever you want to make that third midfielder.
But Charlie has been playing pretty horrible as of late too in the selección.
Wait, I didn't hear that last part. Yeah, you cut off.
Charlie has been playing horrible in the selección this past.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. I think that Charlie Rodriguez and Nene Beltran. I don't know why. I feel like every game they shoot the ball from outside the box 2-3 times, and it's never on target. It's always way off. Actually, no. Charlie has improved that with Cruz Azul. But when he was at Monterrey, I was like, why is this dude always shooting the ball? Same thing with Beltran. I don't know why Beltran shoots from outside the box. Just pass the ball, man. When's the last time? I feel like he shoots 3 times a game and never scores. Same. It's almost like with Guardado. I feel Guardado was very similar too in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, Charlie's he could contribute more. So then let's figure out what's the problem with Ache. Ask Simeon. Well, how come Ache is not playing the amount of time that you think he should be playing?
Yep. I forgot which qualifier game it was, but you just saw the ring rust on a lot of these players that are not getting minutes. Raul Jimenez, like I know he was coming off an injury, but we put him in as a starter, and he just looked off, man. I mean, he redeemed himself with the penalty kick and all that, but he did not have a good game, and it's just like it's because he's not getting minutes. He's not in form right now. And I mean, that's just it's a problem. Right now, we're struggling in the qualifiers, and I think there is a correlation between that and the fact that we're starting players that are bench warmers. So until that changes, I mean, I would love to give the minutes to other players that are hungrier and in better form. We'll see what happens against USA, but
Yeah,
And
and I promise you that you know the point that Joey brought up earlier. You know when Spain won the World Cup, majority of the players are like Barcelona, Madrid, and everything. I promise you right now that if Mexico was struggling to qualify to the World Cup, I mean like there was a real danger of us not going. I promise you right now, the Federacion would do like mini camps in between the week, like you know Tuesday to Thursday, and get like players from the domestic league to concentrarse, like get together, get that rhythm. Same thing like when Piojo basically took the America squad to play New Zealand. If we took the top guys in Liga MX and we got them in mini camps, like 3-4 weeks together, they would outperform the players out in Europe.
yeah, I 100%, dude. And the other thing was, they started making the Azteca, taking advantage of the altitude, of the heat, of the smog, playing that midday game. Even that would benefit a lot, especially with players from like Cruz Azul, Pumas America that are used to playing there, even Toluca, which is at higher elevation, that you would see them how we would see how the other teams would get gassed. We're not seeing that so much anymore because the players come from abroad. They're not used to playing there. They haven't been there in a long time. Um, and they announced the hours. They're going to be what, at 8 o'clock, I think. Night games for
Yeah,
the
yeah. I don't know why we're playing the Azteca. Azteca's not an advantage. It
yeah. And
doesn't
then
even
at that
fill to
hour,
capacity.
no,
At that hour, you bring in players from Europe that play at sea level. At that point, you might as well take the national team to other cities where the love, the warmth would be more there, like Monterrey, even Guadalajara, Torreon, where you know the fans would make themselves felt, and they kind of be
yeah,
grateful that the national team is there.
yeah. At this point, I'm hoping it's an empty stadium. I think if Mex plays with fans, I think it could go wrong, dude. They'll have like 15 minutes to convince those fans, and if not, they're gonna turn against the team.
Yeah, Mexico City fans are spoiled when it comes to La Selección.
well, the game's at 7 p.m. March 24th. I think tickets are gonna go on sale if not already. So they are gonna have fans for that match. And yeah, depending on how it goes, man, if they go out timid, messing up, and if USA start being aggressive, like this is a crowd that can turn on you and start cheering the other team on.
Yeah, this could be Tata's farewell. Well, no, there's
Yeah,
a
and
game after that, right? Like right away, like two days later or something, a week.
Yeah, 3 days. We have Honduras, and then the final match of qualifiers is against El Salvador. So
Oh yeah,
three matches in like a week.
yeah, and Mexico doesn't go to the World Cup, and they're not going to run the risk of missing out. Even if they lose to the U.S., they're still going to be El Salvador. They'll still qualify in the top three. Um, I don't think that's a concern. Honestly, I think the concern is just the style of play that the fans would want. It's not there, you know, the identity of play. But as far as like
yeah.
the federation being concerned that Mexico's not going to the World Cup, I don't think that thought is existent.
All right, boys, we're up on the hour and a half mark. We got our closing thoughts to wrap up episode 324 of La Cantina. Ricardo up in the YouTube chat saying, reminder that Chivas is the biggest lie in football. Thanks, Ricardo. Oh, man. As far as this weekend goes, let's see what we got. We have Pachuca versus Mazatlan on Thursday to set off match week 7. Out of all these matches this weekend, I think the what do they call the clásico between Pumas and America? It's like
Capitalino, no, Clásico.
or is it list Civil War? I guess.
Hey, Clásico Joven, man.
No,
It
Clásico
should just be
Joven's.
Clásico.
I thought it was America Cruz Uno or Toluca. I forgot which one.
Theirs is a clásico now.
Yeah. We also have Conca Champions action tomorrow, so we have Santos trying to close things out against Montreal on the road, and then you have Pumas versus Saprissa. They actually tied 2-2 on that one, so we'll see if Pumas can hang on. And Cruz Azul against Forg on Thursday. Do you have any closing thoughts, Tecatote?
I just want to say that Chivas is not the biggest lie of all time. I could write a book about that as far as the current issues with Chivas. But no.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my closing thought. Whoever said that, I completely disagree with you.
Joel, what you got for us?
Just some food for thought with this whole Euro subject. When we look at Mex, their biggest achievements all came with homegrown talent and a Mexican coach. Confederaciones, gold medal, both of those over Brazil, and the under 17, 2 under 17s. So all of those big achievements came with majority Mex players. And when we see a lot of Mexico when they played Copa America, and they've even if like overall, if you see their record against some of these top South American teams, they're pretty even with a lot of those. You know, aside from like maybe Argentina, they can't beat. But if you were to see like head to head going from like the 90s, and that's with the majority Mex team playing some of these squads that are majority Europe. So just something to think about.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to thank everybody for hopping on tonight. It was very brave of everyone to put their words in. I know it's hard with a microphone and having to speak versus just downvoting someone on Reddit, which is a lot easier. But we welcome everybody from Reddit, and we hope that in the future we can continue to have these conversations. At the end of the day, we all just want Mexico to succeed. We want this. That's why we're so critical of these players and critical of these teams. We just want them to succeed at the world stage, and hopefully at the end of this, we can just all get along. But I want to thank everyone for hopping on tonight. Follow us on Twitter, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.